So just before we start, I'll give you a little bit of an introduction by way of why it is that I enjoy speaking about science and religion. A big part of it is because, for me, I grew up in a Protestant fundamentalist background. And in the Protestant fundamentalist background, they have kind of adopted a fideist approach to science and religion. What do I mean by that? Well, basically that they are two diverging truths and that they're incompatible with one another. And that is definitely not the way I believe about science and religion. And I was very grateful that the Holy Spirit guided me to the Catholic Church. And in the Catholic Church, our understanding is that truths of science and truths of religion, while different, are very much compatible because it's the one God who creates the world. It's the one God who creates the spiritual world. It's the one God who creates the material world. And the two of those truths are very much compatible. Now, in my undergraduate, I studied the sciences and philosophy from a secular perspective. I had 5 majors. I studied biology, chemistry, biochemistry, pre-medicine, and philosophy. And then after that, I studied philosophy again from a Catholic perspective at the Josephineum in Columbus, Ohio. And then, of course, I studied theology at St. Louis as a seminarian. This past fall, I just finished a certification program in bioethics through the National Catholic Bioethics Center. The paper that I wrote is actually going to be published for Ethics and Medics. It's going to be the lead article for next month, so if you get a chance to read that, you might find that kind of interesting. It's on sex reassignment surgery. Anyway, that's a whole other area of bioethics, which maybe next spring I'll do a series on bioethics. But anyway, now we're going to talk about science and religion, one of my favorite topics. So again, the question arises for a lot of people: is there a conflict between truths of science and truths of religion? And here is Pius IX, the Pope during the First Vatican Council. We hear a lot of statements about the Second Vatican Council. This is a quote from the First Vatican Council. He says, "However, though faith is above reason, there can never be a real discrepancy between faith and reason, since the same God who reveals mysteries and infuses faith has bestowed the light of reason on the human mind, and God cannot deny himself, nor can truth ever contradict truth." So in other words, while they may be different types of truth, there's really no inconsistency between a truth of faith and a truth of religion. Well, in a sense, we can close the presentation with that quote. But so often today we hear about people talking about things as though there are conflicts. So we want to go a little bit more deeply into our understanding of why it is, or how, religion and science can work together. Maybe we might even say that religion becomes the impetus for science. How can we say that, especially in the Western world? Well, it has to do with our understanding of creation, our doctrine of creation. Because we believe that God creates from nothing, we believe that it is possible to understand more deeply the laws by which God creates the universe. So, God creates the world out of nothing. We believe that. That's what we believe. It's called, as a doctrine, creatio ex nihilo. God creates from nothing. Well, to say that God creates from nothing is to say that also that he uses himself, his own intelligibility, as a pattern for the world. So in a sense, we would say that when we look at the created universe, the world, all the creatures in it, mirror, in a sense, the Creator. They reflect the Creator, the beauty of the Creator. And they reflect not only the beauty of the Creator, but what we in philosophy call the other transcendentals as well. The goodness of God, the beauty of God, the truth of God, the oneness of God. So, since God does not whimsically create the universe, universe, but uses himself and his own divine laws to create the universe, these laws are discoverable. We can discover those laws. They're not going to change. And because of that, that provides us with the ability to discover these laws in a trustworthy way, so that we can say, if we want to know and understand more deeply the laws of gravity, the laws that govern movement of falling objects, well, we can do it. And we don't have to worry about whether or not that's going to change tomorrow. All that's based on the foundation of our Christian understanding of who God is and our Christian understanding of creation itself. Now, in the history of the church, there are many different priests who have contributed significantly to the field of science. And so this is just a list of a number of those priests who have contributed greatly to science. Father Roger Bacon was, anybody who has studied science knows that he's really the founder of the scientific method. We've got St. Albert the Great, the teacher of St. Thomas Aquinas, was a big botanist. Just to go through a few more of these. We've got Blessed Nicholas of Pisa, who was a mathematician and an astronomer. Here's a list of more people. This guy here was the founder of crystallography. Blessed Nicholas of Steno is actually a quite remarkable individual. He's considered the father of geology, but he did a lot of work not only in geology, but in anatomy, paleontology, and studying the stratification of the earth. Oops. And then Gregor Mendel is the father of genetics, as you know. Many of you know, maybe. You know. Anyway, here we have a picture of Monsignor Lemaitre, the founder of the Big Bang Theory, with his friend Albert Einstein. So, when we think about the contribution that the church has made to science, I would venture to say that no institution has contributed more positively to the development of science than the church. And not only because of the people that it contributes, but as an institution, funding, research, and education in the sciences. No institution in the history of the world has contributed more to the development of science than the Catholic Church. So again, why is there this apparent conflict? Well, two things kind of stand out to us. One is the so-called Galileo affair, and the other thing I would say is a theory that develops in the 19th century known as conflict thesis. And we're going to look at both of those particular things. Now, first we're going to look at the Galileo affair. The Galileo affair is an extremely complex situation that happened. That's really, the more you study it, the more you go into it, the more layers you peel back, it becomes very interesting. It's very complex. There's a lot of science that's associated with it, but there's also a lot of politics, world politics and politics in terms of the church. So it's very complex, dynamic, and interesting. Now, so we'll go ahead and cover a little bit about this Galileo affair now. Galileo asserted a heliocentric world without sufficient evidence to prove his theory. And this is where Galileo comes into conflict with the church. Now, this is basically just a simple conclusion before we really get into the thing. Theologians took issue with his personal attacks on the Pope, clergy, and then, of course, this lack of evidence. But let's explore this a little bit more in depth. So, Galileo was born in Pisa. Now, he studied medicine at first, but he lacked interest in medicine, and so he switched his study to mathematics. And he was very skilled in mathematics. He actually never got a degree in it, but he was so skilled that he was able to become a professor of mathematics, and then moved from Pisa to Padua in Italy. And there he perfects the telescope. He didn't discover the telescope, he didn't invent it, but he did perfect it. And he perfects this telescope, and with this telescope, he's able to make a number of observations about the world around him. The first observation that he's able to make is that there are craters on the moon. He discovers that there are craters on the moon. Now, what's wrong with there being craters on the moon? Nothing, except that it conflicted with the theory of science of the day, which was Aristotelian physics. Aristotle believed that in the supralunar realm, the realm beyond the moon, everything was made of ether, and ether was a completely unchanging substance. So the fact that there were these craters on the moon implied that, well, the supralunar realm was actually changeable. Another thing that he discovers is that there are sunspots on the sun. And the sun seems to rotate, it seems to move. So he notices certain things like this, and he believes if he's able to basically show that Aristotelian physics or Aristotle's understanding of astronomy was not correct. Now, so he writes this letter, the sidereal messenger. He writes a letter on sunspots, and basically what ends up happening is he adopts Copernicanism. Now, Copernicanism is basically, it's two theories. It's essentially heliocentrism, that is that the sun is the center of the earth, number one, the universe that is, and number two, geokineticism, the earth moves. Now, we wouldn't think of this being so radical, but it conflicted with the theories of the day, the science of the day, which was Aristotelianism. Now, why was it that Aristotelianism was so important? The reason for that is because Aristotelianism was a comprehensive theory that explained not only the scientific world, but what we believe to also be the metaphysical world. And if you study Aristotle's theories and his philosophy, everything builds on itself, in a sense. He starts with his physics, and from the physics he goes up to his metaphysics, and from there you have his theory on psychology, all the studies that he did on vegetation, and the rest of the sciences. It's a comprehensive and coherent theory that explains things.